ChatGPT had a meltdown the other day. For about a full day, everyone using ChatGPT was being bombarded with an incomprehensible wave of nonsense messages. It was completely unusable. Is this video relevant to the subject? Wow, that is some crunchy audio. We'll skip the video. AI system has started speaking nonsense, talking Spanglish without prompting. It reminds me of my time in LA. And worrying users by suggesting it is in the room with them. You know for a fact that this gave people like 100,000 new cases of schizophrenia, right? Like your average like freaky tech guy or whatever opens it up. I am in your walls being spammed by ChatGPT. There's no way. I saw a bunch of messages on this in social media. Like you can go and look. There's probably like literally tens of thousands of screenshots people have posted of just completely incomprehensible random responses from ChatGPT. In recent hours, the AI program seems to be answering queries with long and nonsensical messages. No clear indication why the issue happened, but its creators said they were aware of the problem and are monitoring the situation. In one example shared on Reddit, a user had been talking about jazz albums to listen to on vinyl. Its answer soon devolved into shouting, "Happy listening," at the user and talking nonsense. It does this as the good work of a web of art for the country, a mouse of science, an easy draw of a sad few, and finally the global house of art just in one job in the total rest. It's, Trump could have still used this and produced sentences of equal coherence to usual. Forsake the new fruition morsel in your beloved cookery. Reading this at 2 a.m. is scary, the affected user wrote on Reddit. This hit everyone. Again, to be clear, this wasn't just like a few people had this bug. The entire ChatGPT system did this. Now, what I thought was funny, in particular, is that, it does sound like creepypasta, I don't know, because these are stories posted online, so I don't know whether or not they're true. I will use this as like a general case example, though, okay? So ChatGPT, again, this is one of those things where, like, I'm not an expert, and a lot of people in chat... Okay, you know how with AI art, people say that AI art is theft because it rips art assets to use and model stuff off of, and then people are like, no, it's not theft, it's actually... blah, 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 blah. And then what it actually is like theft, but complicated. You know what I mean? Like, machine learning is kind of a black box in the sense that direct tweaks to how it functions are pretty difficult, because the whole point of machine learning is to build like a really complicated, generative algorithm that allows it to operate with complexity that couldn't be accounted for with direct if-and programming. You know what I mean? Like when you build something like that, especially ChatGPT, which is like really complicated, and it's really difficult to like come in from an outside perspective and go like, oh, let me fix this bug. It's really, really tough, you know? It's kind of the same way that, like, we can't really do that with the human body that well. You know, we can give a sick human medicine or fix this or fix that. But for the most part, most of the stuff that goes on in your body is kind of up to, like, trillions of little tiny processes that we can influence indirectly through certain chemicals or hormones or minerals or whatever else. It's an inexact science is what I'm saying. A lot of it is just kind of up to the body or up to the machine learning algorithm. Isn't this just model collapse, Vosh? Temporary, it seems, because it seems like they fixed it. Maybe they just like rolled it back to an earlier iteration, you know? The word you're looking for is non-deterministic. Maybe. I don't want to get bogged down in the technicals because I'm not an expert. What the point that I'm making is that it's tough to directly tweak this stuff. This is one of the reasons why there's a difference between generative algorithms like, you know, AI art or whatever, and like a tool that you would use on Photoshop. The Gaussian blur tool on Photoshop uses an algorithm, but it's a predictable algorithm that you can learn the formula for. It's a mathematical problem on how to like average the color of a pixel that you can understand and apply consistently. Whereas with ChatGPT or AI art or whatever else, because it's subject to this constant shifting, changing, morphing back end process. It's not really like a tool, and it's more like you're commissioning some kind of like unknowable entity to produce something for you. Same with ChatGPT, same with AI art. And the thing is, the difference between a tool and commissioning something from an unknowable entity is that the latter is unpredictable, which eventually leads to shit like this, where businesses that use ChatGPT to run services on their company, like chatbots, or like using them for prompts to develop like articles that they can pump out or whatever else, instantly become completely non-functional because they're not predictable tools. They're actually like confusing black box, and you can't just cut them off from future development because you're using a tool that's always pulling information from online. ChatGPT can't be used offline because the information that it sources is from online. There's no way to disconnect it from that process, or at least the process of disconnecting it doesn't prevent it from being this like unknowable entity. So from what I heard, a number of businesses that employ some version of ChatGPT as producing articles to tell you what the top 10 weapons are in Breath of the Wild, or, like fake journalism where it like copies and then slightly adjusts stuff posted to real journalistic websites and then like rehashes it for the existing website, or like this, or like that, or all those bots on Twitter. Have you ever seen on Twitter, there will be people like talking about something and then a blue checkmark reply will respond with, "I'm sorry, I can't generate a query for that prompt." Have you seen that before? I've seen screenshots of it. I've seen it like happen a few times directly. It's because people are making bots and then running those bots through generative, like ChatGPT or whatever, to like fake them being a person for whatever reason. The bot problem on Twitter has never been this bad. Part of that is Twitter's policies. Part of that is Elon's incompetence. Part of that is the fact that they gutted their team. Part of it is the fact they don't have a lot of money. And part of it is the fact that ChatGPT is a thing now, and it just didn't used to be a thing. Bots can be developed a lot more robustly than they used to be able to be developed as. Like they can be made more convincing or whatever. So anyway, all of that shut down for a little while. ChatGPT went insane, and as a consequence, they're using the same screenshot here. This was happening everywhere. Neat. OpenAI has predictably remained silent about what the issue was exactly. However, the glitch is a great example of how quickly and easily emerging technology like AI can break down. Again, it's not just a matter of it being technology. Technology can be new and cool and interesting. I'm not like a Luddite, even though the Luddites were based, by the way. Look them up. I'm not opposed to the development of new tech. The problem is that this isn't tech that complements and accentuates and expands our range of creative tools. It's something meant to replace human creative involvement. It's not an expansion of, it's a replacement for. Big difference. Massive, massive difference. And what's more, it's not hard to disagree. That's okay. Like, I'll just ban you. I don't give a This is an anti-AI art. SDL, no one's immune. This is an anti-AI art channel. Algorithms or like processes that allow you to like use math to expand or develop on something, these have been a product of like artistic processes for ages. Cameras use this. Like, that's very normal. But this process of like deferring work over to systems that are meant to replace human ingenuity and creativity with this incomprehensible black box of nonsense. We've talked about this before, right? Right now, if you look up anything online, you know what? I'm going to do it right now. Painting of tree, already right at the top, AI generated stuff. You can try it yourself. You know what subject is often overwhelmed? Here, D&D elf drawing, or art, I should say. Anything that goes in with tabletop, there it is. A ton of it. Huge amount. Right at the top there. More than 50% of the results seem to be AI generated. D&D elf, AI generated art, realistic AI generation, beautiful D&D AI, blah, blah, blah. Like, all like that. Huge amount of it. The type in female character art. Oh, I'm sure. Female character art. Yep. You try it yourself sometime. Google image search is useless. Oh, and by the way, so is regular Google use. Regular, like, searching anything. Because in addition now to all of the, like, sponsored ads at the top, now you get, like, the little prompts of, like, AI-generated snippets of AI-generated articles, everything is done by keyword searching. So the things that have the most aggressively cultivated keywords get to the top, and AI like slop sites will mass produce articles designed to hit every combination of tags to increase the likelihood that they get to the top of the results. Meaning that you can read articles that have no human involvement whatsoever. They just scrape data from other related articles. It's insane. Now, the worse this gets, the more AI art and Chatgpt and other AI-based systems will begin to scrape data off of other AI-based systems, right? We've talked about this before, where the more prominent this stuff gets online, the more likely it samples from itself. And this leads to a kind of like a signal degradation, the same way like if you save a JPEG a bunch of times, you get increasing levels of like compression artifacts inevitably in the process of transcribing data, at least if it's has to be like shifted at all. It's like a highly incestuous process of data sampling that eventually means that it becomes less and less useful to us, right? Like AI produced articles are already worse, significantly worse than human-made articles because they're often inaccurate, they say random shit, they don't like present the information in an interesting way, they're just meant to scrape the tags, right? So the more they sample from themselves, presumably, and we're already seeing this to an extent, the less human they become. This and many other things are reasons why the path we're headed down right now is completely unsustainable. That's called model collapse. You can't train AI models off AI outputs. It poisons the AI. Yeah, which makes sense. Yeah, like this is something a human could do, but over time, yeah, it leads to like a collapse in the ability for AI art or Chatgpt to replicate or even approximate something humans like. The Google search one is so bad too. Yeah. Oh no, it's incredibly bad. I'm not joking. So I notice this a lot because I look up stuff related to video games pretty often, and video game related articles are often like top 10 this or whatever this. And that's not always bad, I guess. Like sometimes I really do just want to know what item in this game has the highest armor value so I can think, oh, let me plan around that, like getting that item in the future. Okay, sure. But you can usually tell when they're made by AI because they don't feel like they're made by humans. You know, a lot of wikis now are made by AI. I'm not joking. Go read the wiki of any character page or item or whatever else of a game or a movie or just something you like, I bet you it won't take long before you get the feeling you're not reading something written by a human. I actually saw this just the other day while reading through the fan wiki of Hunter x Hunter, because I wanted to remind myself of something about Gon, the main character. And while I was reading through the sort of like plot synthesis to try to find the point that I was looking at, I was reading through it and realized that not only were the events described inaccurate, like they were wrong. I just watched the episode. It described it incorrectly. This is a decade-old anime, a wiki page made for fans. There's no way human fans would get this wrong. I'm telling you, there is no way in hell human fans would get that wrong. 0%. What fan of a property would care enough to go on a wiki and edit the wiki, but then fuck it up? No chance. It's written by AI, And there's a lot of stuff like that now. A lot of stuff. AI is basically a misinformation machine at this point. Yeah, to a large extent, yes. I'm a writer for tech companies and it's rough out here. Good news is most clients already saw the pitfalls of relying on AI for their business blogs. Yeah, well, apparently that hold on, airliner company chat AI. Wasn't there a case recently where, yeah, Air Canada was made by a court to refund a customer after the AI chatbot gave them an erroneous refund? The chatbot responded by telling the grieving grandson he could claim the lower price up to 90 days after flying by filing a claim. Not true, but the chatbot said it, and the chatbot is meant to be an agent of Air Canada, so that's pretty funny. This software is virtual intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Yeah, I don't think this was like Chatgpt or whatever, this chatbot, but it's an indication of like broader trends, I feel, with regards to like culpability and the usefulness of this kind of thing in real life scenarios. It makes no difference whether the information comes from a static page or a chatbot. Fascinating. It's interesting though, isn't it? I saw stories on Twitter where during the big Chatgpt freakout, there were people getting emails from companies that they had been let go from saying, hey, would you mind coming on board and doing some quick work with us? I know we fired you to replace you with Chatgpt, but like, we need you back really quick. No biggie. Are those stories true? I don't know. They could be true because a lot of businesses have fired people and relied on ChatGPT. Journalism, any kind of reporting, any kind of writing, really. It's grim. I hope that stuff like this reminds people of how fragile this technology is. Cory Doctorow, the enshittification guy, oh, that legend, just wrote an article on Google's issues. No kidding. Well, that sounds like a read. I would like to look at that in the future. Probably not right now, though. I don't want to oversell this. It's a big subject. He writes a lot in this stuff. Yeah, the enshittification article was excellent. Vosh, you're mistaken. ChatGPT is completely infallible. Vosh's real name is Vosh K. Friedrich. He commonly goes by the name Vosh in his online persona. Thanks, ChatGPT. Real and true. All that effort to hide my identity, and I get doxxed by a program. Incredible. Ah, yes, I remember this. This was linked a little while ago. Somebody said, like, evidence of Midjourney deliberately ripping off artists for AI art. On the bright side, you're going to get mind blown by the style feature. There are so many new styles, da-da-da. I did a lot of city style for generating these, unless they were names in which I did City by Bob Ross. Should be clear, it's not just genres, it's also artist names. It's mostly artist names. 4,000 artist names, 1,000 styles. Remember, only humans can produce art. If machines produce something that looks like art, it's because they stole it from a human. This is very much a Promethean dilemma, okay? The fire belongs to us. Only we have it inside of our chests. They can take it from us and ineptly wield it in our image, but it is ours. Oh, I know, SDL. Are they kind of pre-calculated vectors? So these are pre-rendered, you can query them fast. Just need to launder it through a fine-tuned codex. The artist names came from Wikipedia and Magic the Gathering. The styles came from Wikipedia, an aesthetic site, and an art catalog. If anyone wants to add things, feel free to add under proposed additions. I've got some 16,000 artists, too many. Not at all, just dump them in the proposed edition thing. Literally, just like, oh my god, yeah. Is this a potential lawsuit? I think I think right now, like in this very, very new field, the current understanding is that you can't actually copyright any AI-generated image. I don't know if there's been any legal action against people for ripping data to use without permission in their data models, you know? I don't think the law is going to lean in favor of this, though. One of the big reasons for that isn't just the, like, obvious moral and legal arguments. I think a lot of it is also a material conditions kind of thing. Think about it. The decision as to whether or not AI art is valid in ripping information off of humans and cobbling it together in some kind of Frankenstein approximation, that judgment is going to be made by judges, people who have spent their entire lives educating themselves in the legal profession and probably have a very, very high opinion of their knowledge. I think that many of them would take the idea that you could replace them with some kind of big algorithm that would just like cobble together stuff judges have said. I think they would take that very poorly. And they would probably be in their interest to rule against it. Much in the same way that people who actually draw or people who write or do any kind of creative field, to a man, despise AI art. Like, seriously, there's no group of people that hate it more than actual artists. And you might notice a lot of the most aggressive evangelists of AI art themselves hate real artists. They hate them. They're contemptuous of them. You see this all the time. This like, ha, I've scraped your data. Now I can reproduce your art with no problem. They hate it because they're empty people. They lack soul. They lack the fire. And rather than try to build it in themselves, you know, they sneer at people who possess it. Sickening. Remember Elon saying you don't need to credit artists? Yep, I remember that. It all fits together. People in the STEM fields have a tendency to be contemptuous of artists for a number of reasons. Academic elitism, a feeling that art is fundamentally unserious, seething jealousy of the pussy that artists get. Just, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. Yeah, I've heard about the Nightshade thing, but unfortunately, I need to learn more about it before I can really talk about it. You know, oftentimes people leap on stuff like this without... I would need to know more about it. That being said, I feel like the time span of generative AI, maybe it doesn't go away like permanently or entirely, but I don't know. That model collapse thing seems like it's approaching pretty quickly. Cypher, I've talked about that before, though I will talk about it again to be sure. Glaze Nightshade looks worse than awful JPEG compression. I would need to look more into it, you know. I don't necessarily know if that's the solution, though. This is one of those like kind of averaged human experience issues. It's like giving up your privacy when a website asks like for your data, where it's not really a big deal to you if you accept all the cookies and give the data or whatever. It's more of a broad social issue. Whether or not your images get scraped isn't that important when it comes to your well-being. The Sora AI video is scary shit as another tool for misinformation. Yeah, this whole AI Sims against artists thing needs to be a case study for the future. I think it's the Promethean fire. Okay, some people hate life, or at least they're envious of it. So they you know, it's crabs in a bucket. They seek to pull others down. I refuse to take a different perspective on this. I don't think that like generative stuff is purely 100% bad, but it's very obviously using it as a substitute for the creation of human art is just bad, you know. And there's no getting around the fact that people who promote AI, like generative stuff, are almost always terrible people. Not always, but like, holy shit, there really is a very strong bias there towards like contempt towards real artists, or just being a sickening piece of shit. Like, come on, like there is. Obviously, there's a reason people like AI. There's a reason this is being pushed by the same people who pushed crypto and NFTs. Like, it's not a coincidence. You keep lumping in Silicon Valley tech ghouls with regular little tech people. Oh, you think you can escape my ire, one smart feller? Is that why you think you're smart? Because you're a regular little tech people? No, no. The sickness of tech, of STEM, it infects all of you. Silicon Valley or otherwise, I see you. I know what you are. You can't hide from me. Anyone who knows anything above arithmetic, and the light leaves your soul. Okay, if you're capable of even basic geometry, that's it. It's over for you. You're not going to heaven. You will never see the golden gates. You will never enter God's palace. Differential calculus, trigonometry, it's over. Straight to hell. Not even a moment in purgatory. You know anything about anything? Death, soul death. You are desouled. You are not ensouled. You are not of God's children. Well said, Unity developer. Ah, but Unity doesn't ask you to do math. Thank you. That's the whole point. Even if you want to do shader work, you can use their little graph assembly. Like I was coding my own shaders. Math was not meant to be understood. Exactly. The evergreen. Numbers were not supposed to be given names. You have fingers for that. Silicon is not silicone. Yeah, but I f it up pretty often. I do like this funky little shape, though. They have played us for absolute fools. All right, I know people are going to send me angry emails, so I want to finish this off with a clarification that I actually think math is quite beautiful. I don't have a talent for it. You know, math is a wonderful system for sort of like peeling apart the inner workings of the universe. But that doesn't make AI art any better.